Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Strategic Planning for the Small Business Owner. We're so excited about the content we have today. Before I introduce our speaker, I do want to get into just a few logistics. So first of all, we will be recording this session, and we'll be sending out a follow-up email with access to the video so you can refer back to this great content. Also, we have enabled our questions feature. So on your right-hand side of your GoToWebinar panel, there is a questions tab. Feel free to write in your questions anytime there, and we will get to some during some pauses in the presentation, and anything we don't get to during the presentation, we will have some time for at the end during our Q&A session. So keep those questions coming. I'm Hannah Curtis. I'm a coordinator with the North Metro SBDC, and I'm so excited to introduce our presenter today, Jon Jaggers. He's a longtime SBDC consultant and a lead consultant for us. So, Jon, I will turn it over to you for your presentation.
Oh, thank you, Hannah, and thank everyone that's joining us today. To me, this is a great opportunity to share ideas. My experience has been 25 plus years in manufacturing and working for large companies, but I've also, part of that is I've run large plants and large organizations. So strategic planning has always been a key element to those companies that I work for. And then 6 years ago, I was given the opportunity to work for SBDC, and one of the tools or concepts that I brought with me was strategic planning. And in going through the process with different clients, and I've probably done strategic planning with 20 different clients over those 6 years, I've been able to witness their growth and their focus and in positive improvement because of that. So it's concepts that I highly believe in, and I know they work. So with that, we're going to start off the slideshow. One comment about the slideshow: it's got a lot of content. As Hannah said, we will record this, and you'll be able to go through it in more detail later on. Really, in doing a presentation, I wish it was interactive. It'll be interactive between Hannah and myself. However, I'm not going to read every bullet on every slide. I'm going to comment on them to the most important points, and then we'll move on. And again, if you want to go back to them, they're there to look at them later on. Okay, Hannah. So we're gonna cover a number of different discussion points. First of all, I want to do just an overview of the urgency for strategic planning. We are going to talk about the value of vision statement, the value definition, value proposition, the actual heart of the strategic planning, the SWOT analysis, and then a piece of that is tactical initiatives, which is actually the actions to be taken after the SWOT is developed, and we'll talk about establishing goals. Okay, so jumping right into it. And again, I'm not gonna read all this. You can read it. You're all smart people. You can read it and then read it later if you want. But I think right today, and I'm again very fortunate. I deal with 20 different clients that are across the board, from manufacturing to retail to nonprofits, and you are all facing the same challenges. And so the fact that strategic planning, particularly right this time of year, we're going into, it's almost September, it's an ideal time to sit down and really think through what your strategy is going to be for the next 12 to 18 months. So, but in today's new normal, as we call it, I said future state there, but it's a new normal, and it's not going to go away for the next 12 to 18 months, unfortunately. It requires a different approach. It requires solid business structure. and leadership in order to get through this. The other piece is, I think that those organizations that demonstrate the clear vision that we're going to talk about and resilience to succeed will be the ones that survive, and survival is a key without a doubt. So the other piece that I've observed with my clients is that they are not, in the last 6 months, they have pivoted to away from their past practices to initiatives that are novel and effective. And primarily, most of them have been driven by e-commerce, one form or fashion, whether it's in their marketing plan, whether it's in their communication, and or really in all of the things that they do. E-commerce, use of the web, use of Zoom meetings has changed how we operate. And for example, today, that's what we're doing. So, okay. You can go on. All right, let's talk about vision statement. I'm going to read this because I think it's kind of good. It's a vivid word picture of desired future condition. It creates a context for setting and achieving the goals necessary to get there. A beacon on the horizon. So I picked Southwest Airlines, and go ahead, Hannah. Their vision statement has become the world's most loved, most flown, and most profitable airline. And that is truly the case. One more hit there, Hannah. And the essence of a vision statement is it should be able to capture a couple of compelling sentences. And those sentences need to be with imagination, feasibility, focus, flexible, and good communication. Now, a little side story about Southwest Airlines, and I'm going to date myself when I do this, but it's okay. Back in early 1990, I was living in San Antonio and working in Dallas, so constantly flying back and forth between the two, always on Southwest Airlines because their hub is at Love Field in Dallas. And on one particular flight, late on a Friday afternoon, myself and several of my associates were boarded the plane, and it was kind of empty, and which was good, and we just kind of sat there, and then a distinguished gentleman got on and sat on the aisle right across from him. I recognized him right away. It was Herb Kelleher, who is the founder and former president of Southwest Airlines. So we were just trying to keep to ourselves. You know, we met each other, but it was amazing to see him on there. But then the flight took off, a very short flight, 30 to 40 minutes. Herb jumps up out of his seat, runs to the front, grabs a basket of peanuts, goes all the way through every aisle, joking and making howdies to everybody on the plane, and then he runs back to the front again and serves us drinks. At the time, the vision statement for Southwest was basically fly for peanuts because it was so cheap. And Herb was such a good role model from a standpoint of, this is how you operate. I'm not too good enough, and all of my staff is not too good enough to have fun and to make sure it's a delightful experience. So I thought that was pretty neat. Okay, you can go on, Hannah. Another, I think, really good example of a vision statement is this company that we all pretty much know. And their vision statement, I think, is really kind of all-inclusive. Build the best product, cause no unnecessary harm, use business to inspire and implement solutions to the environmental crisis. Patagonia, they make some great products, but they also give tremendous amount of money back to the environment, and that is certainly a strong testimonial to what they believe in. So, you know, it's a very brief vision statement, but it speaks to the values that they possess, and it addresses their customers and how important it is from a standpoint of the environment. So I think it's another great example. Now, granted, these vision statements are from big companies. Well, as I pointed out with Southwest, they were small companies at one point and had enough initiative and insight into themselves to put together a good vision statement. So from a standpoint of being a small company of 1 or 20 makes no difference. I still think that you need a vision statement to direct yourself and to direct those that are working for you. Okay. Now we're going to talk about values, and really, values are an interesting part of your leadership of the organization. They are really the core values that what's important to your business, and really, it should also be a strong element of how you conduct your business. It's interesting that also it's part of the brand. I was looking at a website the other day, which I was working with a lady who may be on here. I don't know. She is looking for a contract manufacturer to produce her cosmetics, and so I looked at one of the local cosmetic contract manufacturer in Denver, and they were very clear on the values that they believed in, and I thought that was really tremendous from a standpoint of they are demonstrating those values on their website and sharing them. So one more. Okay, then the values are primarily internal, so it's a great tool to make sure that your employees are working towards the same goals, but at the same time, it's also those core values are a part of your vision and shape your culture. In today's world, in order to retain employees, culture is extremely important. So, okay, I'm gonna go on. Okay, so we're gonna go on to some examples of what core values are, and I picked. You can go through all of them, Hannah. That's fine. I'll just discuss each one of them a little bit. So the description: values are the core unchanged tenets and beliefs against which all actions and decisions in the organization are weighed. And that, again, I'm reading, but that's a very important point. So in today's world, and our world is different, it's very important that the values of today are a little bit different than they were in the past. With everything that's going on with our world, as far as the pandemic and other issues that are arising, it's very important that a company, first of all, acts with integrity. Integrity is such a key, both internal and external. If you don't have integrity, you're not going to get the support of your employees or your customer. Second point is demonstrate transparency. Don't have any hidden agendas. Be very straightforward about who you are and what you believe in. The next one is exhibit inclusiveness. Again, in today's world, we're going through kind of an evolution where a lot of companies have had to wind down and now they're rebuilding. And so it's an opportunity to bring on new employees if they've lost the old employees, which is very possible. But they need to demonstrate inclusiveness in how they operate, because in today's world, feeling included, you millennials out there, and you're probably all millennials. I'm looking at Hannah, I know she's a millennial. Anyway, it's very, very important that you are included in the objectives and the goals of the organization, and that you're empowered to be able to do your job. And it's only been with us for a month, and yet she's doing, because of her talents, we're taking advantage of her talents and her knowledge, which is fantastic. The other piece of values is a strong commitment both to your customers and the community. In today's world, millennials are well aware of those companies that like Patagonia that give back to their community and are, do a good job of treating their customer. And then the last point is, from a value standpoint, is embrace change and innovation. We're going to talk about that quite a bit here in a minute. Okay, Hannah. Oh, pursue excellence. We missed that one. I think any company today needs to pursue excellence, and again, we're gonna talk about that in a second. Okay, so really from your values, the next step is developing a value proposition, and this is a marketing tool that you put on your website, social media, etc. And it's a very short but straightforward summary of what your values are. And I'm not going to read each one of these. There's one more, I think. There are a couple more. Yeah. There you go. Okay. So, but I think across the board, it's interesting that these value propositions capture very clearly what is important to each one of these companies. Uber, the smartest way to get around. Hey, couldn't say it any more straightforward. Intuit, simplify the business of life. If you have ever dealt with, and you have, I'm sure, dealt with Intuit products, TurboTax, QuickBooks, they are driven by the fact that they want to put together software that is easy to use and gets the job done. And it's very effective. And throughout their culture, this is what they believe in. Now I like the last one, Wegmans. Wegmans is a grocery chain out of the East, but I thought it was really, really good what they said. High standards are a way of life. We pursue excellence in all we do. That's Wegmans. So look.
Great, those are really helpful, John. Just want to interrupt real quick, and you touched on this briefly, but wondering if you can expand a little bit more on the internal and external impacts of the vision, value, and value propositions.
Absolutely. Now I have, hold on a second, because I haven't lost you for some reason. I don't know if everybody else has or not. Oh, there you are. Okay. From a vision standpoint, I think that's primarily internal, but at the same time, I think it can be shared with customers. It's pretty closely aligned to the value proposition, but the vision is what the future state and really what I think it's more appropriate to employees to indicate this is the direction we want to go. Values are actually both, because I cited the example earlier of the contract manufacturer actually had their values on their website. So it's internal that you need to share those with your employees, but at the same time, I think you need to share with your customers, because that's what you're all about. And then the value proposition is external. It's a kind of a catchy phrase that has to do with marketing, and so that's really where that goes. Okay. Were there any other questions that popped up so far?
We don't have other questions yet, so everyone listening, feel free to, like I mentioned, type those in the questions tab, and we can bring those up throughout the rest of the presentation, but we're good to keep going for now. Excellent.
So we're going to move on to the SWOT analysis. And it's pretty straightforward, but SWOT analysis is an evaluation tool of your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And that's a tool that's used a lot of different ways, but I like to use it from a standpoint of strategic planning. And the participation on this exercise should be not just owners, but should be key managers and some lead employees. And it's anytime that I have run the exercise, I always tell them that you got to be brutally honest about where you're at, both your internal and external state, because honesty is going to get you to the validity of what you need to work on. And then again, that's like the best opportunities to pursue. And we'll talk about the strengths that will help to improve the company. Okay, you can go on. So the SWOT analysis really is looking both at internal and external factors. And in internal factors, it's the strengths and weaknesses is what are addressed, and external, it is the opportunities and threats. So you're looking at a matrix. And did you have a question, Hannah, about the matrix? I thought you did.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just fixing my glasses there. And we might get into this in a bit, but many of us may be familiar with a kind of template of what the SWOT looks like. Is that something you would recommend us to look at?
Hannah, you are so well prepared. It's a great lead in. Wait a minute, I went one more slide, I think.
Oh yeah, here we go.
We're well practiced. But we can't fool anybody. Anyway, I use both this template and then there's another one, but let's stay with this one second. And the point of this is that in dealing with any organization, I will give them this template beforehand. They need to review it. They need to notate points on every one of the aspects, whether it's strength, weakness, opportunities, or threats. And so it's a planning tool. I give it to them a week beforehand and ask them to do their homework. And really what this does, it makes for a much more effective exercise because they've already thought through those things that are important and are foremost on their minds. So you can go to the next one. This is just another different template that I use. They're not a major difference between the two. Sometimes, depending on what the company does, I use one or I use the other. So, okay. Okay. So this is I think this is a little redundant. Let's go past that. I thought eliminating that in the beginning. Okay, so
well, I covered it so well.
I didn't know. So we're going to jump past it. If you want to read it later, go ahead. Okay, so again, the SWOT exercise typically takes about an hour of time. Again, if the participants are prepared. And I think one thing that I didn't mention, it's important to have someone that facilitates the discussion, whether it's the owner or someone who can control the group and keep them on task. I think that's very, very important. So, but once that SWOT is complete, typically what I do is say, okay, we've completed that, an hour and a half. Let's wait a week. I will present it to them on either Excel or Smart Draw where they can see it. But I allow them a week to digest it and think about it. So then when I come back a week later, so we talk about 7 or 8 what I call tactical initiative, and these are opportunity points that have to do with how do you leverage your strengths and how do you work on your weaknesses. And actually, interesting enough, if the group has done their homework, the organization piece on the SWOT pretty well outlines what their opportunities are. So, but overall, you look at initiatives, we talk about marketing effectiveness, which is very, very important today, operational excellence, inclusiveness and empowerment, which, as we said earlier, are extremely important in today's world. And I think there's a couple more, maybe, Hannah.
Sorry about that. Yep, a couple more there.
Okay. So, and the next point is cultural attractiveness. I don't know, that may be kind of wordy, but really what that boils down to is, do you have a company, an organization that where I want to go to work for you every day that I come in, because it is a culture that is inclusive, that does have empowerment, that has clear direction, that we understand the values. And then the last point has to do with business infrastructure, which, again, in today's world, it's very, very important that you are organized in your structure. Okay, go ahead, Hannah. So I took some. I recently did a couple different SWOTs and came up. The group a week later, the groups a week later came up with some examples of their tactical initiative. So I'm going to go through those because I think they're important. So in the heading of inclusiveness and empowerment, they decided that they wanted a way to capture improvement ideas. And I actually teach a lean class, and I'll do some advertising for myself here. A week from today, at the same time, we're going to go through lean manufacturing, but also it does apply to really any organization. So that was one other initiative. And then communication was key as part of that. So they had asked, and they came up with the idea, let's have weekly schedule meetings with the entire group. Let's have daily huddles. So communication was extremely key to work on their growth and to work on their efficiency. The next piece was marketing, and these key points are they apply to this tactical initiative, but they apply to everybody from a standpoint of information content on your website done on a consistent basis is very, very important. I won't go into all the algorithms of Google, but let me take my word for it. Keeping your website up to date is important. They came up with the idea of white papers for social media, which were just a good technical description of what was happening within their organization. And then posting customer testimonials on their website was also very, very important. On the operational excellence side, evaluate technology advances and software enhancements. And I know you're going to sit there and think, I don't have millions of dollars to spend on very complex technology. Well, it's pretty amazing. And again, particularly in the last 2 to 3 years, I've had the opportunity to research a number of applications that are very simple and are very straightforward and are very helpful from a standpoint of making the operation, no matter what it is, more efficient with better communication. I'll give you one example. I recently worked with a organization that's highly technical out of Boulder, and what they do is they develop or they build testing equipment for solar panels, the effectiveness of solar panels as they're being built. So it's very complex. However, when we went through the SWOT, it became very apparent that they did everything on paper, which was amazing to me. So they would have one piece of paper where they would have the quotes, another piece of paper where they had the invoice, another piece of paper where they had the engineering order, another piece of paper where the manufacturing piece came into play. And so my hair, little bit it is, immediately caught on fire. And I said, why are you doing that? There's many, many applications that you can use. And we came up with what's called Smart Sheets. Smart Sheets is a tracking mechanism that takes all that paperwork and compiles it into one piece of software that everybody has access to. So don't think that that's just one example. There's other examples of QuickBooks. I got another client that uses what's called Kinjone software, which is a labor tracking software. There are many, many different applications out there that don't cost a lot of money, that for your particular efficiency or effectiveness, you need to take a look at. And I know you know 10 times more on this than I do, but because I have several clients that are your age and your savviness. They said, John, you need to try this. John, you need to try this. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's nice how many options there are, definitely.
I'm sure you young folks are on top of it. But the point is, back to the point, is that technology is out there. It doesn't cost a fortune, and it's going to make you very much more efficient than what you are today. And the final point is business infrastructure. And again, these are all tactical initiatives that certain companies went after. So they wanted to work on their metrics, which we're going to talk about here in 1 second. So you can go ahead. Hannah, is there any questions at this point?
One question, I'm actually wondering if you're in a business where you have several departments, would you suggest doing a SWOT analysis for each department, or would you just suggest doing one for the business as a whole?
Well, it really kind of depends on how big your organization is. If it's, I would say, and most of our small business clients are 20 or less. I would do it on the whole, because that kind of brings the team together. And again, you're only going to focus on 8 or 9 specific tactical initiatives. And so they need to be inclusive into that discussion. It's not, the process is really pretty straightforward, again, if you do your homework. So
great. Yeah, okay. No other questions at this time, so we can go on to goals we all need.
Cannot be that good. Come on, get out of here. But anyway, the next piece to strategic planning, it really, once you've established initiatives, so how do you measure them? And goal setting is really a practice that I've used right from the time I was a supervisor all the way to a VP. I think goal setting is extremely important, and successful companies do have very, very strong goal setting, and they adhere to it. I don't think, in most organizations, I don't think that any more than 4 or 5 organizational goals are needed, because if you have more than that, and I've seen companies that do, you're not gonna gain ground towards those goals, and it's really a deterioration of your resources. Now, if you go one more bullet.
Thank you.
Okay. However, I think in goal setting that you have your organizational goals, but at the same time, I think it's extremely important that you have individual goals that support those organization goals. And really what that does is creates accountability and involvement on the individual's part. You millennials love feedback. I know it for a fact. I'm fortunate to have many clients that are millennials, and we talk about it all the time. So in having an objective and a goal individually, or several different objectives that contribute to the organization goals, I think are really key. So then you can go on. So some goal examples, and you will see that these tie right into, you can go through all of them, Anna. I'll just talk about them.
Okay, I think that is all that we have on this one.
Yeah, that's good.
Great.
So sales growth is for any organization, it's particularly key. So it's important to track your sales growth. I mean, that's driven by a strong marketing plan. However, it's also driven by good communication to your customers, quality products, products on time, services that are excellent, and customer service follow-up. So that is one of I think the common goals that almost anybody should have. The second being cost reduction. I like to use lean initiatives, but cost reduction can come from any good ideas that you and your employees generate in order to control costs. And then the next one is employee retention, which is it's a metric that's easy to track. Again, inclusion and empowerment are a big piece of that. And I didn't include it, but training is also a big part of that. Make sure that you have the skills that are necessary to do your job. And then infrastructure advancement, and that has to do with the application of innovation and technology that we talked about earlier, which again, doesn't have to be complex. There's many, many opportunities out there. Okay. One more. Next slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is our last slide, I think.
So, and wrapping up, hopefully, based on our discussion, strategic planning provides a clear path to those initiatives that can be pursued, and to position yourself both at economic development and organized growth. And the next point, which I think is really key, one of the things that I do with really all my clients, whether I'm starting out with them or I've dealt with them for 5 or 6 years, is that methodology and what they do, whether it be planning or executing, is very, very important. So I've given you some methodology here that you can apply, and you would be surprised with the time and effort that's involved in strategic planning. Is going to create a very clear picture for your organization. And in today's pandemic, economic challenge world, it's very, very important to do that to position yourself well for the next 12 to 18 months. Okay.
Great. This is really helpful. We did get a couple questions coming in. Talk about that, how helpful this is for our next 12 to 18 months. What about someone who's just getting started, maybe hasn't even actually started the business yet? What type of goals should they be focused on now so that they can see that success in their next 12 to 18 months?
Well, I think going back to the original piece, I think as they're putting together an organization, that they do need to think about their vision. What is it what is it that's going to drive them? What is the most important to them? And at the same time, evaluate the values that they have personally that are going to drive the organization. Because as they grow, it's important to share those. I'm not sure that SWOT analysis, may be good on an individual standpoint, because again, it's a very frank discussion with yourself. This is where I'm at, and this is where I need to go. So what do I need to focus on? So I think in both, even starting out, all those are important pieces.
Great. Another question about goals. How often would you recommend communicating goals to your employees? And what do you recommend as the best way to communicate those goals, like the bigger goals?
That's a great question. I missed that. I think that the 3 or 4 goals that you come up with, I think those need to be communicated on a monthly basis. And I think the way that you do that is, to me, it's always been charts and graphs against the target, and those can be put on company information boards. Could be just pasted on your bulletin board in the lunchroom. If you have a lunchroom, you're starting out, you probably have what's called a kitchen. so you're gonna paste it somewhere in your kitchen. But I think on a monthly basis, from a standpoint of organization goals, the individual goals, however, which take a little bit longer, I think need to be reviewed on a quarterly basis. And okay, so we've all been through the working for a large company, the annual performance review. Oh my gosh, did I do everything? How am I going to be evaluated? Yeah, every company I ever ran, we had quarterly evaluations. You would know for sure within that 3-month time frame how you were doing and what you need to work on. Okay, no surprises at the end of the year. Well, John, you could have done a little better. I didn't bother to tell you, but hey. So that's the answer to that.
Yeah, definitely helpful to have that ongoing communication about those goals.
Oh, I think so.
Another question we just got in. Lisa says she did a SWOT analysis with you, and it made a huge difference for her marketing and production efforts. They're coming up on 12 months. So should she be thinking about going through that exercise again?
Absolutely. And Lisa, I know who you are. I only deal with one Lisa. So, and it's a client. The answer to that is yes. And we need to set up an appointment where we do go through a SWOT analysis, because in the last year, you have, as you pointed out, you have evolved tremendously from a marketing and a manufacturing standpoint. And considering the COVID that we're in, we need to take a hard look at what we're going to do in the next 12 months. So
great. That's good to hear. That also makes me think of a question. You mentioned, the special circumstance we're in now, being in a pandemic. When there are if there is a big external impact to business or economy on a large scale, would you suggest doing a specific SWOT analysis to that for that time period, even if you have done one recently?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Hannah. I mean, we don't operate the same way we did 6 months ago, and that's pretty amazing. Think about it. Some of it's good, some of it's terrible, but again, those leaders that are resilient to all the changes and are creative, I think they should do a SWOT analysis. And then one last sales pitch, which you can give, is that if they need assistance on any of these aspects of the organization, I and several other of the consultants are very, very willing to help out. So
yes, yeah, great pitch for that. Anyone who is looking to set up free consultations with John or any of our consultants, you can go to our website, northmetrosbdc.com. You can also find on our website all of our other programming and resources. So really helpful place to go, northmetrosbdc.com. And that's also where you can go to find out information about the webinar John mentioned next Wednesday about lean manufacturing. Should be really helpful, and I'm sure a lot of this information we'll follow up on some of that during that presentation as well.
Absolutely. A point I didn't make earlier, which I think is important, we're in 40 minutes, we covered a lot of ground and mostly just conceptual ideas. It does take a lot of work to work yourself through these different ideas and to make sure that they're effective. And again, as Hannah says, we are certainly available to help you with that effort.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Well, those are all of our questions for today. You did such a wonderful job, making all of this information so clear. It's so important to all of us for our businesses. Anything else you want to add, John?
No, I think the last point, which I've made several times, which I think is a good point, is take the time to plan, take the time to strategize. We all get caught up in the day-to-day fires that are in front of us, and I found that if I suggest that clients go through this exercise, and we do, that they, as Lisa said, they walk off the other end saying, oh, no, I really know the direction I need to take. And that's so important. That's
Yes.
it.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jon, and thank you everyone for tuning in, and we wish you all a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank everybody else.